I once started a new role and I was asked to update a Python script. I opened it and one giant file, hundreds of lines, no structure, imports scattered everywhere, half of them unused. Variable names that told me nothing, not type him, so I had no idea what any function expected or returned. I spent more time reading that script than actually updating it because the code didn't help me, it fought me. What if my editor had coded all of that for me? The unused imports, the missing types, the inconsistent formatting, automatically before I even ran the code. I'm Jesus Illescas, developer advocate with Cisco DevNet, and today I'm going to show you how to make the IDE do the work for you. Here is what we will cover today. First, formatters, tools that make your code look good without you thinking about it. Then linters and type checkers, tools that catch real bugs before you even run your code. And finally, a few IDE settings to make the whole process automatic. Before we jump in, let me clear up something that confuses a lot of people, or at least confused me when I started. Formatted rewrite your code for consistent style, like spacing, indentation, line breaks. It doesn't change your code, it just makes it look good. A linter finds actual errors, for example, unused imports, undefined variables, bad patterns. It catches real problems. And a type checker validates that the types in your code match what's expected. Did you pass a string where the function wanted an integer? That's a different class of a bug entirely. Let's start with the formats you probably find the most. JSON, YAML, Markdown, very common for inventory files, API responses, config templates, documentation, you name it. Here, Prettier is the universal formatter. One extension and it handles JSON, YAML, Markdown, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all of it. Look at this JSON file, for example. Inconsistent indentation, some keys are on one line, others are spread across three. I could fix this by hand, or I could do Ctrl S, done. Every bracket aligned, every key consistently formatted. I didn't touch a single character, Prettier did all. If you only install one extension from this whole video, make it Prettier. And remember, this isn't just about JSON. Prettier handles Markdown too, which matter more now that AI agents and LLMs are reading your documentation. For Python, the answer is black. Black is opinionated by design, and that's the point. It doesn't ask you single quotes or double quotes, or how many spaces around this operator. It just picks and formats everything consistently. And black is not making things up. Black is built on top of pip 8, the official Python style guide. There's also a dedicated auto pip 8 extension if you want strict pip 8 compliance. And if you want to go even further, naming convention, documentation, best practices, Google publishes an excellent Python style guide that is worth to keep. I'll put both links in the description below. The point here is these tools enforce real established style guides. Pick one and follow it. Your code will become readable not just to you, but to everyone who joins your project. See, for example, this Python file. At the beginning it looks everything is okay, but if you pay closer attention, you will see that we have different types of quotes, simple, double, we have a lot of spacing here, and other things that are a bit more subtle, like the space between the constant and the function. And also, see, this looks messy, how you have your parameters here, right? So by using black in this case, once I do save, we can see that we have double quotes in all the file. We have some nice spacing, and more importantly, my parameters are organized, and this is way easy to see and spot. On VS Code, this is the configuration that makes all of this automatic. Editor formatOnSave. Once it's turned on, you never have to format manually again. As you can see, the default format that in this case is Prettier. That will cover JSON, YAML, Markdown, and everything else. For Python, I have to overwrite it to use black instead. But this is not a problem. If there's a JSON file, Prettier will format. If it is a Python file, black will format it. This is generally the single best IDE settings most developers or network engineers are not using. Turn it on today. One more thing, all of these tools, formatters, linters, type checkers, can be configured to your needs. Maybe you need a different line length, or you need to suppress a specific rule for a valid reason. You do that through configuration files that live in the root of your project. A PyProject for black and Ruff, a Prettier for Prettier, a PyWriteConfig.json for Pylance. The key difference, IDE settings like formatOnSave live on your machine. Configuration files live in your project. They get committed to a version control, and everyone on the team gets the same rules automatically. That's how you go from it works on my machine to it works for everyone. I will not go deep into each config file here. Check the documentation for each tool. I'll put that link in the description below. But the point here is you are not locked into the defaults. You can customize, and when you do it through config files, the whole team benefits. One more thing on the formatting layer, EditorConfig is formatted in a single file that handles the absolute basics. Indent styles, line endings, trailing white spaces. It works in any editor, VS Code, JetBrains, Beam, GitHub's web editor, and in most of them natively. Think of it as the foundation layer. EditorConfig ensures everyone agrees on tabs versus spaces, for example. Formatters like Prettier and Black build on top of that. Formatters make your code look good. Now let's talk about tools that catch real problems. Pylint is the most established Python linter. It's been around for over 20 years, and for good reasons. It catches a wide range of issues from the obvious to the subtle. In my case, here is the Python script that I showed you before, and I'm going to enable the extension. Now, as you can see, there are a lot of errors and messages. For example, in this case, it's not able to see the docstring of the login module, but at the same time, if you see a bit below, it is saying that this module is not really used. And if I go with OS sys, you can see the modules are not used, so why they are on my script? Same for NC client, it's not able to import, so maybe the library is not even installed. If I scroll down a bit more, I can see that Pylint is already saying, for example, in this function, that the docstring is not defined, which is a best practice. But something more interesting we can see a bit below. And if I go to this variable respawn, we can see that it's not used. And do you notice? It says respawn instead of response. This is the kind of warning that, or help that Pylint is really useful, because otherwise this can be a bug. Now, Pylint is very complete, but it's not fast. On large files, you can feel it. And that's where Ruff comes in. Ruff is a newer Python linter written in Rust. it runs in milliseconds where Pylint takes seconds. It covers most of what Flake 8, eSort, and a good chunk of Pylint rules do, all in one tool. Ruff can also format code, but where Ruff really shines is as a linter, catching problems, not just styling. Ruff catches many of the same things Pylint does: unused imports, undefined variables, bad patterns, and it auto-fixes a lot of them. So here's the key question: do you need both? You can absolutely run Pylint and Ruff together. They overlap, but they don't overlap completely. Ruff handles the fast common checks and auto-fixes. Pylint adds the deeper design level analysis, things like this class has too many methods or this function is too complex. If you want the full picture, run both. Ruff catches style issues and common mistakes. Pylance, on the other hand, catches type errors, a completely different class of bug. Look at the same file. This function, setInterfaceMTU, expects an integer for the MTU value, but down here on the main function, I'm passing a string in quotes. This actually will work in some cases silently until it doesn't. Maybe when you do a comparison or if you try to do math with it. Instead, Pylance catches this kind of errors right here on your editor instead of when you are running your program. To enable this, you set the configuration Python analysis type checking mode to basic. That's all it takes. Pylance starts checking your types, not aggressively, but enough to catch the obvious mistakes that will bite you at runtime. One thing to keep on your radar: the team behind Ruff is building a type checker called TY. It's very new, not ready to replace Pylance today, but it's worth to keep in mind. To give you a brief overview of how TY is working, here on my main function you can see a keyword unknown. This keyword is the return type and is unknown because TY is not able to identify the return type that is coming from my connect function. If I define a return type, it will appear there. Also, on the setInterfaceMTU, as you can see, I have now an MTU keyword there. That is the parameter that I had defined. This is nice to see when you are looking at the functions. But what is more interesting is if I look at the error, you can see I have two errors, one coming from TY and the other from Pylance. And if I'm honest, the error from TY is easier to understand than the description from Pylance. Between Pylint, Ruff, and Pylance, your editor is catching unused imports, undefined variables, bad patterns, design issues, and type mismatches. And all of that before you run a single line of code. One more save time trick. Remember how Ruff flagged those unused imports? What if I told you the editor can fix them automatically for you? In this case, with the configuration editor code action on save, and then we need to put source fix all to explicit. This means that Ruff auto fixes everything it can on every save. Unused imports, gone. Import order, sorted. Simple pattern physics, done. Just watch. I'm going to save and all the unused imports are gone. Combined with formatOnSave, here's what happens every time you save. Black formats your Python, Prettier formats your JSON, and Ruff fixes any auto-fixable issue. Your code is always clean. That's the full stack. EditorConfig handles the basics across any editor. Formatters, Prettier and Black make your code look good on every save. Pylint gives you deep design level feedback. Ruff catches common issues fast and auto-fix them. Pylance catches type errors, and auto-fix on save means that Ruff fixes everything it can automatically. One more thing, these tools also have command line versions. That means you can run them in CI/CD pipelines to enforce standard across your entire team. Your IDE catches issues while you work, and the CI prevents anyone from merging the code that doesn't pass the linter. And this matters even more now that AI agents are writing code for us. Whether it is Copilot, a chat assistant, or an autonomous agent, the code they generate often works, but it doesn't always follow your project style. Missing type hints, inconsistent formatting, imports that are not needed. The AI doesn't know your team's convention. These tools do. Formatters, linters, and type checkers act as a second layer of review, catching what the AI missed and automatically before it even reaches your codebase. I've linked everything in the description below: Pylint, Ruff, Prettier, Black, the NETCONF Hello World I use for the demos, and all the settings I showed you today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the Cisco DevNet channel for more content like this, and leave a comment below with any questions you have. Thank you so much for watching.